This is Philippa. She lives in London in the 1650s. One fine morning in 1653, Philippa woke up in her house in London. Oliver Cromwell was now in charge of the country. King Charles I had been beheaded, but Oliver Cromwell wasn't the new king. He was the Lord Protectorate, which seemed very similar to a king, but wasn't exactly. Now, Philippa already knew that Christmas was banned, but otherwise life didn't seem too different at the moment. So, since it was such a beautiful day, she decided to go to the park to play football with her friends. But when she got there, she discovered that their football had been confiscated. Sport was banned. So instead, they decided to go and find a nice pub to have some lunch. But when they got there, the pub was closed. Pubs were banned. So they thought they could go to the theatre and see a show to cheer them up. But when they got there, all the theatres were closed and all the shows were cancelled. Theatre was banned as well. So they thought, okay, let's go home and have some fun instead. We could get out Mum's makeup box and play dress up with her makeup. But when they got there, they found all of Mum's makeup had been taken by the police. Makeup was banned as well. It carried on like this, day after day, with all the fun things cancelled, and Philippa was beginning to think that life under Oliver Cromwell instead of a king might not be as good as when they had a king. On the 29th of May 1660, everything changed. Oliver Cromwell had died, and his son had turned out to be useless. Everybody wanted a king back, but luckily, Prince Charles II was coming back from exile in the Netherlands. He arrived on the 29th of May 1660, and straight away it was declared a public holiday. There had been no Christmas holiday for more than 10 years, but now there was a completely new day off. Everybody in the street started having a party. The new king himself was young for a king, and he absolutely loved to party. He held dinners and balls and spent the beginning of his reign thoroughly enjoying himself. So after all the things that had been banned under the Puritans and Oliver Cromwell, the rest of the country decided to follow his lead. Philippa walked down the road. The pubs were open, the theatres were open, and they were advertising some crazy new comedies that looked hilarious and rude. Some of them had women performing in them, which had never been allowed before. Some were even written by women. Over the next few years, people started dressing completely differently. Their skirts and their hair got bigger and bigger and more covered in ruffles and bows and all sorts of crazy things. Men and women started wearing massive curly wigs like King Charles II. Philippa decided that actually she preferred life after the Restoration with King Charles II to life before the Restoration with Oliver Cromwell. She preferred to have the parties and the comedies in the theatre and the crazy fashion to the Puritan life from before the Restoration. Which would you prefer?